Sometimes it seems like spirituality and self-mastery are at odds. Of course, this is only superficial, but if you've been on the spiritual path without balancing it out with cultivating personal authority, you may have fallen into this common trap for spiritual seekers, which is cultivating spirituality from your child self. Where is the locus of your authority? If you're honest, you'll realize that most of the time it's outside yourself, external. You look to external sources for validation and permission. You look to external sources for the blueprints that define your reality. And this is normal when you're a child. If you undertake a spiritual path before you've shifted your center of authority, before you've transitioned into true adulthood, all those beautiful teachings about dissolving, transcending, surrender, and compassion are going to be applied and understood a little off-kilter, a little off the center of their true power and meaning. So imagine yourself as a fulcrum. On one side, you have the weight and power of your spiritual path, and on the other is where the weight and power of your personal authority, your true adulthood, is supposed to be. And when these are balanced, you cultivate a powerful understanding that leads to deep, healthy transformation. But if where you're supposed to have your adult authority, you instead have only a slightly modified child's template, then your center of gravity and power is always going to be compromised, overwhelmed. So what happens here is that people experience problems from this imbalance. And instead of realizing they need to cultivate personal authority in adulthood, they come to the mistaken conclusion that they just haven't gone hard enough into spirituality. And so they work harder on that side, making things even more unbalanced, more unworkable. So you're on a spiritual path, but are you truly fully an adult? Have you moved from the child phase into sovereignty, true adulthood? Human 2.0. It's not just you, of course. Most people are in this state. We're easily influenced by external agendas and internal outdated programming, even though we generally have the experience of being in charge of ourselves. But that's not really what's happening under the hood. Personal authority is about developing an internal locus of authority, an internal center of gravity, knowing what's yours and not yours, living from that clarity and becoming someone you can truly trust. This is the proper and necessary counterbalance to the spiritual path. It's actually very simple, but of course it won't be easy. First of all, no one ever tells you this. And secondly, our society and most of our relationships aren't designed to support the cultivation and expression of personal authority. So ask yourself if you're willing to do what it takes to become an adult, to become self-possessed, to take full possession and authority over yourself, and to balance out your fulcrum of personal authority and spirituality. The alternative is quite unpleasant and leads to a lot of confusion. If you're not in command and possession of yourself and your human systems, something else will be. Something else is. Like everyone, you were thrust into this human experience without a user's manual. You spent your whole childhood having your default programming installed by your parents, your education, your culture and society. It's normal. And this is true for all of us. But what comes next? We've been told that becoming an adult is about learning to manage our money, advancing our careers, maintaining our own living space, and securing a pair-bonded relationship. And all those things are important. They're fulfilling, but they only address the superficial levels, taking responsibility for the practical, mundane details of your life. But how do you learn to take responsibility for yourself? Especially if you were never even taught what comprises your human vehicle, yourself. How do we transition into the next natural phase of human development, what I call human 2.0. Here are some things you must master to become a true adult. Your energy. What is it and what is it for? How do you protect and manage it? Your mental, emotional, and imaginal systems, they're powerful and sacred. How can you safeguard them and use them properly? Are you ready to accept your authority, to truly understand the source of responsibility and permission? By what authority do you address and command your inner reality? And hey, stop abandoning yourself and finally become someone you can trust. Learn to show up for yourself in all situations without fail. Learn how to be radically honest with yourself. Stop justifying, blaming, and turning reasons into excuses. Get to know your synthetic self and learn to reprogram and customize it. And finally, boundaries. Cultivate mental, emotional, and energetic boundaries to resist influence, control, and energy loss. These are all part of the natural adult human phase of development, the transition from being a child to being a true adult. But here's the thing, no one instructs us on how to move our center of authority, our reference point, from external to internal. And yet this is the most fundamental shift you must make. As a child, you naturally placed your center of authority, your reference point for reality, outside of yourself. You looked outside of yourself for permission, approval, validation, security, protection, and love. You look to others to give you a map of reality and to tell you about yourself. Mastering your human vehicle and shifting your center of authority from external to internal is natural. Everyone should start this process in their early teen years, and it should be the most obvious and common thing, but we both know it's not. Our society is structured and focused in such a way that makes what I've just described seem almost superhuman, or like some kind of advanced level of spiritual and personal attainment, but it's not. Moving into the true adult phase of being human has always been important, but now the stakes are higher than ever. I don't need to tell you that we're all swimming in an unprecedented sea of influence, control, and manipulation. The energy parasites are enjoying a full buffet at our expense. So now more than ever, taking command of yourself and growing up for real is imperative if you're to resist the pervasive, insidious foreign influence, programs, and patterns. And I'm sure you'll agree, we need more true adults in this world. So it seems unlikely, but spiritual people have a hard time developing personal authority. It seems like that shouldn't be so, but often it is. Many spiritual practices and perspectives encourage you to do things like dissolve, negate, or transcend the personal self or ego, dissolve boundaries and distinctions, emphasize radical acceptance and non-attachment, practice non-resistance, idealize service to others, prioritize the needs of others, regard the next life or another world or another level of reality as more important, perfect, and real. And finally, and this is important, it encourages you to worship or place yourself beneath and in supplication to a deity, entities, or powers. So listen to this and see if you can spot the apparent contradictions. Practicing self-mastery requires you to be very clear about your boundaries, to distinguish between what is yours, your thoughts, feelings, images, energy, and beliefs, and what isn't yours. To actively shape your inner experience by taking responsibility for your thoughts, feelings, imagination, and energy. To resist being programmed, influenced, or fed off of. To engage with and reprogram your ego or synthetic self. To create an unbreakable bond of fidelity to self. To value yourself and your life just as it is right now, and to stop abandoning yourself. Just stop it. And finally, to stop placing yourself in childlike dependence to parental figures, whether they are people, institutions, the Buddha, deities, or any other powers. Now you can feel the superficial dissonance between these approaches, right? It's not hard to see why you might feel like these are pulling in two different directions. Are you moving toward transcending the illusion of self, or are you moving toward mastering the self? Now, if you remain in the center of the fulcrum, with one side weighted with the full power and clarity of your personal authority, your true adulthood, and the other side equally weighted with your spiritual power of compassion, detachment, and transcendence, you will see clearly the proper use of each, how each complements and supports the other, and you can move mountains. Let this roll around in your mind. It may take a while, but it will bring you to some clarity. And if you're a spiritual person who's interested in developing personal authority, I've left more information for you in the description box below. This channel is about the intersection of magic, spirituality, and personal authority. And if that interests you, hit subscribe and check out my website where I have lots of additional resources.